Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here at Financial Hub. My name is Caleb Sam and today I want to talk about a topic that is about to really start trending and it's sort of catching up. So what is currently behind the scenes, been affecting the markets, and those are things I want to look at. And the thing I want to talk about today is Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. The surge is back. Bitcoin is back to all-time highs around between 106, 107, 108,000, depending on the time you watch this video. But so far, we've hit a high of about 107,500. And if markets can be able to push above this level, then Bitcoin will be going to all-time highs. It's an important time for us to talk about cryptocurrencies. Why? Because the administration that Trump came into presidency with, the people behind it were a lot of crypto enthusiasts, people who support Bitcoin. The team behind it has a lot of crypto enthusiasts. So, and it's important to cover that. Other than that, you're seeing a lot of massive adoption for cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. So I'll talk more about Bitcoin. I won't talk much about the rest because most of the institutional adoption that is happening around the world is based on Bitcoin. Yes, they're doing other cryptos are getting a lot of massive institutional adoption like Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and the likes. But today, I want to focus on Bitcoin itself. So I want us to look at what are these causing the surge behind it. Today, I won't get into the technical side. The technical, remember, is a representative of what is happening fundamentally. Psychology, fundamentals, all brought in together, priced in, is what you see on the technical side. So if you look at the technical chart, if you can go look at it, you'll see Bitcoin has just had a very good rally. We had a bit of some corrections. Market had hit about 105,000 before, corrected all the way to about $79,000, $76,000. And now market is back up at over $100,000. So I want us to cover a few of what is trending. And then we see... let's have some projections of where we think Bitcoin might end up rallying to. First thing, and what even made me come and do this video, is because there's been a lot of massive adoption. I'm a big follower. I follow what Michael Saylor has been doing for a long time. We're giving you the chance to learn Forex for free at Financial Hub, but there's a little twist to it. All you need to do is fund your Paperstone account and boom, you're all in. Deposit $100 and get access to our basic course, perfect for beginners. Or deposit $250 and get access to our exclusive course that is best for advanced traders. Why is this huge? Because you get to learn while you earn. Trade the real money and get real experience. And also you get lifetime access. Once you're in, you're in. There's a video we did with Ken and I talked a lot about information markets and those markets. But behind the scenes, information markets also tracks what happens in the stock market. And one of the markets that have been trading heavily is MicroStrategy, currently known as Strategy. So they renamed themselves, led by Michael Saylor. So what does Strategy basically do? They basically go out there. They have a company called Strategy, which they sell their shares of the company. The company shares of the proceeds they get in terms of financial proceeds, they use it to purchase Bitcoin and they hold this Bitcoin in reserve. So when someone is buying Strategy shares, they're basically buying a share that owns a large quantity of Bitcoin as a reserve, sort of like the digital gold. So MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor and the team are heavy supporters of cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin in the long term. He only buys Bitcoin. So his fund is only made up of Bitcoin. We've been talking about this with Ken. There's a risk to that, only holding one type of coin, but he's not a dumb person. There's a reason why he does that. So if you look at the company itself, the stock market has been surging since they started this. They started buying cryptocurrency back in 2020. Now, mind you, Michael Saylor was was on the opposite camp. He never used to believe in Bitcoin. He said this was a scam, a big worldwide scam. It can never work. How can people own digital things in the long term? But later on, having that open-mindedness, remember, and I told you this, we keep saying it a lot, strong opinions weakly held. Challenge your opinions. The world is changing. So if you see the trend changing, try and understand what it is. And then if you feel like it's going to go in that direction, you can change your mind. If not, it's up to you. But have that open-mindedness to know what is working, what is not. So since 2020, when they first started purchasing Bitcoins, they started in phases, okay, where they sell some, they make profits off their own company, then they end up buying some cryptocurrencies, or they started this more recently where they sell their shares of the company, the money they get, they use it to buy crypto. And so far, for the longest time, strategy, or better known as MicroStrategy, have been the world leading corporate company under the S&P 500 with the largest holdings of Bitcoin. Currently valued right now, I think at about 55. I have it here. Let me just confirm to get that right. They currently valued at $58.8 billion. Okay. The total purchases they've ever done with their money is about 20 billions, give or take. So you can see they're up more than 100 or so percent. So he was the first institution, not the first, but one of the first to really institutionalize the purchases of Bitcoin. Later on, we saw Nayib Bukele, the president of Ecuador, who also came and started buying, became a strong believer of cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. This is when now you're starting to see a lot of massive institutional adoption, or these are economy adoptions, where he started buying for the country Bitcoins. And this was back then his first purchase. If I look here, because there's a tracker that tracks him, he got his first purchase here on September 7th, 2021. That's when he got his first purchase. Started purchasing a lot. Markets had a dip, and then it got to a point where he started buying. He even tweeted and said, "We are buying 1 Bitcoin every day starting tomorrow." That was his tweet on November 17th, 2022. Before, they used to do dollar cost averaging, where you buy at different intervals, and then they came into a more aggressive way of doing that, where he buys 1 Bitcoin every day since 2022. His portfolio is currently up 124% with an estimated value of $659 million. He's made over $300 million for his country or so, but this is a long-term investment. And those are massive adoptions that have been happening behind the scenes. Now, the most recent that has been happening and we got to follow is BlackRock. Welcome, BlackRock. BlackRock are the biggest asset managers in the world with over $11 trillion. And I repeat, $11 trillion in assets under management. They are the hugest. Whatever market they get into, they can dominate. Now, the latest market they've gotten into is cryptocurrencies. They didn't start this a long time ago because they launched what they call their ETF, the iShares Trust Bitcoin ETF, where they started purchasing Bitcoins last year in January 2024. And in the last 1.5 years, they've become the largest corporate, surpassing strategy as the biggest Bitcoin reserve holders. Recently, they've been purchasing over $100 million worth of Bitcoin every single day. If you don't know, the cryptocurrency is a 24/7 market, doesn't trust, it is decentralized, so there's no central entity that stops the purchasing of Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency at any one time. So Sunday to Sunday, you can be able to purchase Bitcoin now. BlackRock, being led by one of the financials that we follow and listen, Larry Fink, has been purchasing cryptocurrencies over $100 million every day. Some time back, I think this was in 2022, 2023, just come back to mind, these big players can also control the market, and it's not illegal. We saw JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, went in front of the whole world and told the world that they do not, as JP Morgan, one of the biggest banks in the world, do not believe in cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. And he told his employees that anyone here who purchases Bitcoin will be fired, and it will be against that. When Jamie Dimon speaks, the financial world listens. Within 24 hours, the market was down 25%. And what happened after that? JP Morgan started buying Bitcoins behind the scenes. Now, is this illegal? Some will argue it is, but it is not yet regulated. The cryptocurrency market is still being regulated. So some people can take advantage of this manipulation, spike fear, then do the opposite on the other hand. So there's a lot of massive adoption. Those are just behind the scenes stories of what has been happening. But now I want to talk about currently with what BlackRock has been doing and such massive adoption, people buying. That's why you're seeing a lot of the prices going back to all-time highs, surging above 100,000. People are already projecting Bitcoin in this rally to get to 200, 300. I hear someone, and this is just speculation, talking about a 600K for one Bitcoin. Now, this is not an easy feat. Markets could surge, and markets can rally to exaggeration, what we call irrational exuberance, to crazy prices, prices that everyone doesn't want to miss in on the music that's playing. Everyone wants to dance to the very beautiful music that is playing and giving everyone money, but you should be cautious and understand what is happening behind the scenes. So other than MicroStrategy, the country Ecuador, Nairobi Bukele, BlackRock and the likes doing this, let's talk about a few things that are happening behind the scenes that is also pushing for a lot of crypto adoption, as well as those prices surging. So number one is, like I said, Trump became president and is really pushing for the crypto community to really be regulated and bring more crypto products out there. So you can see what we have. Number one that is really trending, the stablecoin regulation. Genius Act advances the US Senate. So a bipartisan Genius Act aiming to regulate stable coins. So stable coins are those coins that mimic the US dollar, such as USDT, which is Tether, or USDC, okay, was passed by the Senate, passed a Senate procedural vote with a 66-32 margin and advancing through Congress. It will require issuers to hold reserves in liquid assets, enhance transparency, and provide consumer protection, impacting stable coins pegged to the US dollars. So the US already knows that the massive adoption of finances is going to move towards the blockchain, move towards cryptocurrencies. So they're bringing new regulation, new acts that can be able to regulate this market, starting with the stablecoin. So the stablecoin regulations is number one thing that is moving. Remember, when Ken and I are buying cryptocurrencies here and there, you don't just enter and buy it directly. You come into Binance or whatever Coinbase you're using, whatever exchange you're using, you buy into an USDT, USDC, you can hold that for some time because it's stable. If you have $500 worth of cash and you can buy $500 worth of USDC or USDT and hold that, then later buy into cryptocurrencies, it helps with that exchange. The SEC also recently filed a $100 million fraud. So you've seen this. Even recently, we saw Coinbase had a hack where $400 million, it cost them worth $400 million, and where hackers came into their website, got access to the information of different clients, and they tried to threaten, and it was a funny story, they tried to threaten Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, and told Brian Armstrong, give us $20 million worth of cryptocurrencies and we'll return this information and not leak it. Now, what Brian Armstrong actually went and did, he actually went and looked and gave a reward of $20 million to anyone who will be able to find these people who hacked and how they hacked, so that they can use it as a protection system against Coinbase in future. Well, this hack nearly cost them more than $400 million, but those are near nothing to them because recently Coinbase is a stable company which was recently added into the S&P 500. Now, these are institutional advancements of crypto-based. It's the first crypto-based company that was included into the S&P 500 in recent times. Okay, this is a big move for the crypto world because sort of there's that adoption and stability around the crypto assets and crypto companies. Okay, so S&P was the latest one. There's another company. Now, remember, for you to be added into the S&P 500. Now, what is S&P 500 for those who do not know? These are the top 500 companies in the United States of America with respect to their market capitalization. Now, for you to get into the S&P 500, it doesn't just mean because your market cap has come higher, you'll just be added automatically. No, there's a strict criteria for you to be added. Now, for you to be added, someone else has to be removed. So it's a win-lose situation, okay? So there's another company that was doing very badly. They're called Discover Financial, who were removed off the S&P 500. And on May 19th, 2025, Coinbase was added into the S&P 500, marking a very significant milestone for the cryptocurrency community as large. Okay, so that was part of my also that JP Morgan to allow clients Bitcoin purchases. So this was a more recent one. Okay, JP Morgan Chase reversed its stance, something I was talking about earlier, where CEO Jamie Dimon announced clients can now directly purchase or hold Bitcoin via the bank through JP Morgan, though JP Morgan won't be the custodian of the assets themselves. A lot of these cryptocurrencies normally do this. Even BlackRock, being the heaviest holder of cryptocurrency, are not custodians of the cryptocurrency. They use Coinbase Prime, which is a higher tier for the bigger institutional people, to be able to buy their Bitcoins, and they have cold wallets that they store for them. So JP Morgan, the biggest bank in America, has now allowed people to buy Bitcoins through them. The UK is launching regulated crypto derivative platforms. Okay, the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, approved GFOX, the UK's first fully regulated and centrally cleared crypto derivatives exchange, offering Bitcoin futures and options. Then institutional rally tends to come. Cryptocurrencies prices are rallying across the board, with total market cap reaching over $3.4 trillion. Now, Bitcoin just surpassed, if I look at that, they just surpassed, what is it called? One sec, let me confirm here. They just, not cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin on its own recently surpassed, with a market cap of over $2 trillion. It is slowly and surely heading to become one of the biggest assets on its own, following gold. They just surpassed silver as in terms of market cap, and now they're targeting to pass gold. They're sort of being put in the same category as the biggest companies in the world, the likes of Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and the rest. Okay, with a market cap of, the biggest company right now is Microsoft, with a market cap of 3.4 trillion, and Bitcoin is just below there at 2 trillion. So that massive adoption is also gaining traction. Okay, so a lot of what is happening behind the scenes is that regulatory outlook and the massive adoption by the bigger institutional holders. So behind the scenes, those are what is happening. I think that's the main thing I wanted to talk about. India also urged proactively to shape crypto regulation. They're also pushing for that. The EU is also pushing for that. The US is also creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. An executive order was launched, the US strategic Bitcoin reserve and the digital asset stockpile of seized crypto. So those are things that's starting. If you don't know, there's a lot of crypto that was already seized before, fraudulent activities and all that, and they want to use it into good use, and that's what's happening behind the scenes. A lot of massive adoption of XRP, and XRP, if you've watched our videos, Ken and I used to talk a lot about XRP, but the previous administration, which was against crypto, I remember that guy was called Gary Gensler or something, the SEC head, who was very against XRP, and Brad Garlinghouse, who's the CEO of XRP. And for a long time, we saw XRP really suffer when Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and the likes were really surging. XRP was just surging, was just actually even moving much lower. And most recently, since the new team came into the government, we've seen a lot of a big surge of XRP, from just hovering and ranging between $0.5 all the way currently trading at over $2. That's a more than 4 times or a 300% gain on investment just this year alone. And we could see this market really catching up to become top 5, which is, it's already top 5. If I look here on coin market cap, it's already number 4 in terms of market cap with $138 trillion. So we could really see this catch up, and remember, how does XRP work? It's used for a lot of bank transaction. The traditional banking uses SWIFT, and if you understand SWIFT, it's more of if you send money to someone abroad, you can hear it'll tell you 1, 2, 3, or 4 working days before that money reaches to the client or whoever you're sending money to. That's the SWIFT payment system. But XRP is sort of trying to reduce the expense as well, and reduce the efficiency. So that's what XRP is running on. But other than that, I can talk here on and on and on. But the big thing I really wanted to talk about is that inflows of institutions coming into the markets, and that's what is giving the market a lot of stability. Now, the question is, will Bitcoin go up? Will Bitcoin go down? At the end of the day, even the people who are buying, if you look at BlackRock, and they've stated this, they're not buying this as an asset to make money. They're buying it as a long-term asset reserve for their ETFs. So they're looking at long-term. If you look at Michael Saylor also says the same thing. This is something they're buying. They're never planning to sell, which I believe sooner or later, when we have a bearish market, Michael Saylor will be forced to sell because he has to still pay the investors. Remember, this money that he's taking it on borrowed time. If you understand the nitty-gritty, maybe that's a video for another day. But if the markets really crash rapidly, then he'll have to sell some Bitcoins in order to meet the clientele projections and targets that he had set for them. Okay, so other than that today I just wanted to talk more about behind the scenes and what is happening. Maybe in a different video we'll talk more. If you join our Thursday webinars, where Ken and I normally do webinars in the evening, we normally now look a lot about the stock market, the crypto stock market, currencies analysis, behind the scenes, what is happening, and we get deeper into that. So make sure to join our Thursday webinars where we dive deep into that. Then on top of it all, if you really want to understand the strategies we use, you can purchase our courses that you can get to learn the in-depth of how Ken and I look at markets, how we trade, and how we profit long-term and short-term out of these fluctuations of prices. So I hope you've understood. I hope you've learned a thing or two. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share with a friend or two who wants to understand more about the behind the scenes of cryptocurrencies. But that's it from me. Like I always say, stay woke, stay financially literate, and I'll see you in the next video.